Just to give you a little explanation of our company, it's called Foster & Partners. We're based in London. It's 1,200 people in London we have, and we have about another 150 people around the world. We have site offices as well as international offices. The company, although it's quite big, it started off as a small, very, very small office back in 1967. So we just turned 50 years old last year, founded by Norman Foster. There are several projects that made a big mark in the history of our practice. Back to the 60s when we designed the Willis Faber in Ipswich in England. And that was a significant office building in that it introduced an open plan concept in Britain when all offices were designed as series of rooms. We call it cellular office. And then since we've designed many headquarters. Hearst Building in New York is very famous. We recently completed Apple headquarter in San Francisco, and Bloomberg headquarter in London. Well, this project goes quite a few years back. When we first started, it was 2012. So that's some 6 years that we've spent on this project. This RMK project was so special in that we were able to design every single thing based on the client's need from scratch. So it's a purely bespoke piece of design. Therefore, it was so important for us to understand how RMK work. And that was almost the first process that we went through. Before we even started designing anything, the first thing we did as a team was to understand how RMK works. So we did a survey, and we were in their office for a few days analyzing how people move and which department work with other departments and how closely they should sit together, or they don't. So we understand the overall organization as an entity, and that together with what the client had told us formed the basis of the project. I think I would summarize in two points. One is, as I just said, this double height office module, which was a key to the overall concept, and that was based on the size of each department and each team within RMK, which are 4 people or 6 people, which then define the size of the room, and that then led to maximizing the daylight, which then defined the height of the room. And because the two are different, then we then try to stack them to create this double module, which is very unique, and then combining them and creating this double height hallway with 2 offices stacking created this very unique office concept. So that's a very significant point about the design. And then the cladding design, which is all about harnessing the energy and offering the view where you want, and celebrating this very unique double height concept by modularizing the cladding to encapsulate this double module. So that which another important point about the uniqueness of the project, which all came from the understanding of the client's organization. So I would say the two, which came from the client organization, would be the most significant concepts of the project. This was very challenging because there aren't that many white concrete buildings in the world of that scale. And so there was no benchmark, there was no sort of examples we could go and see. So we were, in a way, the first to build the entire building in white concrete. So that was the first challenge. But then, because concrete work can't stop during the winter just because it's cold, because Ekaterinburg has 9 months of winter, I'm told. So, so we have to somehow work out how we're going to survive through the winter without stopping the construction. So there were lots of research done and studies done and prototypes made, tests that we had to do to make sure that we, when the winter comes, we can sail through it. Yeah, and as an example, one example, the concrete is in situ. We're not building it in factory and bring it in. We're building in situ. So we create formwork and then we pour concrete in. When the concrete is fully dried, you have to take the formwork off. Now, during the winter, when it's very, very cold, the formwork is frozen to the concrete, so it cannot come off. So what you do is you apply this thing called release agent. It's like a chemical, like oil, basically. So when it's finished, you can easily remove the formwork. Because it's white concrete, it's not so much a problem when there's normal grey concrete, but because it's white concrete, the release agent leaves stain. Because the concrete is white, it creates this yellow patch, which is very, unsightly. So we had to the contractor had to even develop specific release agent for white concrete. And that was just one of many, many challenges that we had to go through, but we successfully overcame. Well, it's a Russian building, so obviously it should be made in Russia. So we try to, when during the latter stage of design, when we have to start thinking about the procurement, where the material comes from, we try to maximize the Russian products where possible. So that really helped in a way. At the time, it sounded challenging, because not all the materials that we normally specify for projects are available in Russia. But slowly but surely, I think we managed to get through that. The Russian product, it shortens the distance of travel, it's made in Russia, it's good for your economy, and working with Russian contractors under the supervision of Premier has been absolutely fascinating. As a designer, as somebody in the team, I really hope that the building contributes not only to the company, but to the wider people of Ekaterinburg. And I really hope that it's not just this physical appearance of the building, but the thought process that went into it that gets widely talked about. So, because we worked very hard, and not just designing, but building it. And I really hope that the project as a collective success is widely talked about amongst lots of people, not just in Russia, but worldwide.